You might think you're ready for love, but deep down, something in you might still be saying no. It's not always loud, it's not always obvious, but it quietly shapes who you let in, who you chase, and who you push away. This isn't about blame. It's about becoming aware of what's been hidden, because once you see it, everything changes. Love doesn't just disappear from our lives. Sometimes we unconsciously push it away, not because we don't want it, but because we've been hurt, or we've learned to associate love with pain, disappointment, or even loss of control. We tell ourselves we're being picky, or that we just haven't found the right person. But beneath the surface, our energy might be saying, I don't trust love anymore. The mind is clever. It builds walls and calls them standards. It writes rules and calls them wisdom. But behind all of it might be a scared version of you. One who learned that it's safer not to let anyone in. One who felt rejection and thought, never again. And so, love knocks. But we don't answer. We're not home. Or at least, we pretend not to be. We sabotage without knowing it. We chase people who are emotionally unavailable. We pick fights when things are going well. We run at the first sign of real vulnerability. These patterns are not flaws, they're wounds. And wounds don't need judgment. They need awareness. Love is not just about action. It's about energy. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are available for. If deep down you don't feel worthy of love, you'll overlook the people who would give it freely and chase those who withhold it. Not because you enjoy the pain, but because that pain feels familiar, and familiarity feels safe even if it hurts. We carry a frequency, a field that speaks louder than words. You might say you're ready for love, but if your body tenses up when someone gets close, or your heart panics when someone sees the real you, that's the signal you're really sending. Love doesn't just hear your words, it reads your nervous system. This is why inner work is so powerful. When you begin to heal those unconscious beliefs, when you soften the part of you that always had to be on guard, your energy shifts, and suddenly, people respond to you differently. Not because the world changed, but because you did. So much of who we love is shaped by our inner wounds. We don't always fall in love with who is best for us. We fall for the ones who validate what we believe about ourselves. If deep down you believe you're hard to love, you may feel drawn to people who make you prove your worth. If you're afraid of abandonment, you might chase people who are always one step away from leaving. If you fear being controlled, you might resist even the healthiest intimacy, mistaking closeness for entrapment. These aren't conscious choices. They're echoes of the past. They come from childhood, from past heartbreaks, from moments where love and pain became intertwined. But here's the truth. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's right. And just because you've always chosen a certain kind of love doesn't mean you always will. Healing begins when we stop romanticizing our patterns and start asking, is this love, or is this a wound looking for recognition? Sometimes we subconsciously cling to the belief that love is rare, that real connection is a once-in-a-lifetime miracle, or worse, that it's reserved for others, not for us. On the surface, this belief sounds like pessimism or just being realistic. But beneath it, there's a deeper strategy at play, a form of protection. Believing love is scarce can shield us from the pain of disappointment. If we assume it's not meant for us, we won't reach out for it. We won't risk vulnerability. We won't have to feel the heartbreak of being let down. This is the safety of scarcity. It convinces us that longing is safer than receiving, that desire hurts less than loss. But the irony is, This belief doesn't make us safer. It just ensures we keep love at arm's length. It keeps us in a loop of yearning without fulfillment, where we romanticize the idea of love, but avoid the messiness and surrender that real intimacy demands. Letting go of the scarcity mindset is uncomfortable. It asks you to step into the unknown, to believe that love is abundant, that it can meet you again and again, and that you are worthy of it every time. That shift alone can open a floodgate, but only if you're brave enough to believe that love isn't something you chase, it's something you allow. For some of us, love became tied to performance early on. Maybe we learned that affection came when we were pleasing, agreeable, helpful, successful. We became experts at shape-shifting, being what others needed us to be in order to feel safe or valued. But the cost of this is subtle and heavy. We begin to confuse love with approval. We think love is something earned, not something that can be given freely. So in relationships, we perform. We try to be perfect. We avoid conflict. We manage others' emotions. We hide the parts of us that feel too messy, too intense, too real. And then we wonder why love feels exhausting, why we feel unseen even when we're technically together. Real love doesn't require performance, but to experience that kind of love, you have to risk being seen in your fullness, not just in your brilliance, but in your shadows. That means learning how to receive love, not just for what you do, but for who you are when you're no longer trying. It's terrifying, but it's freedom. One of the most misunderstood blocks to love is the fear that if we open our hearts fully, we'll lose ourselves, that our identity, our independence, or our inner peace will be swallowed by another person. For many, this fear is born from past relationships, ones where love came with control, expectation, or emotional enmeshment. We start to associate love with sacrifice, with dissolving who we are to keep the peace or make someone else happy. So we stay guarded. We only open up halfway. We keep a piece of ourselves hidden, untouched, just in case. Just in case love demands too much again. But this kind of self-protection turns intimacy into a battlefield. You might crave closeness, but when it gets too close, something inside pulls away. Not because you don't care, but because part of you is terrified of being consumed. Real love, though, doesn't ask you to disappear. It doesn't dilute your identity. It deepens it. The right kind of love becomes a mirror that reflects you back to yourself more clearly. And instead of losing yourself, you meet yourself more fully, through the eyes of another, through connection, through presence. The key is in knowing that boundaries and love are not opposites. They coexist. You don't need to shrink to be loved. In fact, your wholeness is what makes real love possible. There's a subtle energy that keeps love at a distance, even when we think we're ready. It's the energy of searching, grasping, trying to manifest love, while secretly believing we're not enough without it. It's like holding up a sign to the universe that says, "I'll be complete once I find someone." And love, being the teacher it is, often responds with silence, not out of cruelty, but because it's waiting for you to remember something. You are already whole. Love flows to presence, to people who have stopped trying to perform for it or chase it or prove they're worthy of it. When you're deeply anchored in yourself, love finds you, not because you need it, but because you're now in the frequency to receive it. You're not playing hide and seek anymore. You're not chasing shadows. You've become the home love wants to arrive at. There's something mysterious that happens when you stop looking for love with urgency. Not because you've given up, but because you've shifted your energy from seeking to being. You begin to listen more, not just to others, but to yourself. You start hearing what you truly need, what feels like love, rather than what looks like it. The noise of trying to find love often drowns out the quiet voice within that's already guiding you toward it. When we're obsessed with finding it, we miss the subtle signs, the synchronicities, the connections, the intuitive nudges that point us toward deeper relationships, not just with others, but with life itself. When the chase ends, your senses return, your heart becomes a better listener. And that's when love starts whispering to you, sometimes through people, sometimes through unexpected moments, and sometimes through a deep sense of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else. Love doesn't need to be hunted. It just needs to be recognized. And often, it's already near, waiting for you to slow down enough to hear its voice. Love has a way of arriving not when we chase it, but when we're finally still enough to receive it. We spend so much time trying to become what we think someone else will love. But the truth is, the most magnetic version of you is the one that's honest, whole, and at peace with the present. When you stop searching, you stop running from yourself. And that's where love finds you, in the stillness, in the clarity, in the quiet confidence that you're already enough. The universe doesn't withhold love to punish you. It delays it to prepare you for the love that mirrors your truth, your growth, your depth. And when it comes, you'll realize it was never really missing. It was always moving toward you as you were becoming ready to hold it.